candidate forum is for two candidates. Karen Fann is running for Arizona State Senate. Chip Davis is running for LD1. Representative Fann has been a resident of Prescott area for most of her life, having moved to Prescott at age 4. She served in Prescott City Council as a mayor pro tem and was the mayor of Chino Valley for 3 terms. Karen has also served 3 terms in the House of Representatives. She's the chairman of the Insurance Committee and also serves on the Transportation Committee, the County Municipal Affairs Committee, and the Ag, Water, and Land Committee, and if there's anything else, I'm leaving it out. Karen is the owner of Arizona Highway Safety Specialist, a highway construction company who's celebrating their 32nd anniversary. You must have started there at 2?
She was 9 years old.
Oh. She has also been a recipient of 24 legislative awards for various public and private organizations, including the best elected Republican in the state. Our second candidate is Chip Davis. He is a 4th-generation Arizonan. Chip's parents still raise cattle on his great-grandparents' homestead west of the Bradshaw Mountains in southwestern Yavapai County. Chip, his wife Karen, and their 4 children and 10 grandchildren all appreciate the rich history and scenic splendor and diverse culture of Arizona. And they believe it's a heritage that must be treated with respect and safeguarded for the future. Chip Davis has tirelessly and faithfully served the people of Yavapai County for the past 20 years as county supervisor. Throughout his time as supervisor, Chip's proactive approach to government and his can-do attitude has put him at the forefront in changing the way that Yavapai County does business, making him one of the most dynamic leaders in local and regional government. Chip Davis believes strongly in smaller government and economic freedom, and he'll fight for these principles in the legislature. Our moderator today is longtime favorite of Los Fuentes, Malcolm Barrett Jr. Malcolm's been a, oh, there I went again.
Perfect.
You've said enough.
Okay. Y'all know Malcolm. I don't know how this is going to work for you, though. I got it back up.
Malcolm will figure it out.
Okay. Well, I'll just turn it over to Malcolm.
That's working.
I sort of shortchanged.
Do you have an agenda here, or am I winging it?
You're winging it.
I'm winging it. I don't know, for those of you who may not know me, I'm very challenged in having to wing it. Does this mic work here? It works? Okay, this works now. You just whack it. Anyway, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, and thank you, our candidates, for taking your time to join us. I don't know. How about this? Oh, this works better. So we kind of have an open program today, and you heard the intros and the bios of both. And I think what I'll start with is let me give each candidate just 2 minutes to open with what you want to say about yourselves. Ladies first, Karen Fann.
Thank you, Mal. Malcolm and I had the honor and the privilege of serving on the Prescott Council together for 4 years, about 20 years ago.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm 4. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming. Hopefully you've got some cake over there. Very nice of them to bring that in. It has been my honor and my privilege to have served you down at the state houses for the last 6 years. I lost one of my seatmates, Andy Tobin, but that seat was filled by Noel Campbell, who's done a great job. And then now I'm losing my other seatmate, Steve Pierce, who is termed out, which is why I'll be running for the Senate seat this time. One of the reasons I want to continue working for all of you and for not only Arizona, but Legislative District 1 is because there is still a lot of work that needs to be done down there. Many of you know I have ran and had passed probably 40 bills at least, and the vast majority of my bills center around economic development, job growth, reducing government regulation to make it easier for businesses to start out. those are kind of my passion. I've done a number of bills which has reduced fraud in unemployment and workman's comp areas. My big bill this year with workman's comp was the vexatious litigation. That is where we are clamping down on a lot of these frivolous lawsuits, because that is what is driving a lot of our cost up and crowding our courts. So that was my big piece right there. My other big piece of legislation this year was House Bill 2666, which I ran for Governor Doug Ducey. That was an economic development bill. Not only did that reduce a lot of regulation, we are combining a lot of forces so that when new businesses come here and they need to get information, they aren't shuffling around to 8 different agencies. This pulls all of that together, and I'm very excited to say that this bill not only is reducing regulation, but the other great thing about it, we already have $150 million worth of new construction under this bill, of which 2 of those projects, part of that $150 million, are 2 assisted living facilities for our veterans. So another real exciting thing. So I just want to keep doing that.
Thank you, Karen. Chip?
Thank you. As the introduction said, I'm Chip Davis. I am 4th generation Arizonan, and I love the state of Arizona. I love Yavapai County. I love our lifestyle. My wife and I, with our 4 kids and 10 grandkids, have a very keen interest in the future of the state of Arizona. And that's one of the things that drives our campaign, is where is the future of Arizona going? We have been a little short in funding our education program in the state of Arizona, and I think that's something that's deserving of attention. Our infrastructure needs within our state has been lacking. As you travel throughout the state of Arizona, you probably notice our roadways are falling apart, our bridges are falling apart, and it's time for investments. And with the potential that the state of Arizona has, if we can do good government and put our investments where they're wisely spent and lessen government where it's not necessarily needed, I think we can accomplish these things without increasing taxes and making this a better place. I sincerely appreciate being a part of this program today. I've served you for the past, I'm in my 20th year. I've served you for the past 20 years on the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors. It's a very rewarding job. I think there are a couple of candidates in the audience today. But public service is fun if you approach it with the right attitude. And that is that it's fun, you get to help people, you get to accomplish things, and it's a very positive experience in life. And so I wanted to take my experience of 20 years in Yavapai County, which has been very valuable. And you all have invested into me that last 20 years to get me where I am. But I'd like to take that experience down to the Arizona State Capitol. It seems so often the folks down at the Capitol may not understand what rural Arizona goes through. They may not understand what counties go through or what small cities and towns go through. And so I'd like to take my experience of what we have received from the legislature and try to bring our voice down there and try to get some things returned to rural Arizona. The center of Arizona is not metropolitan Phoenix and Tucson. You have to go through rural Arizona to get anywhere. And when those folks leave on the weekend, they're coming to our neck of the woods. And so,
Thank you.
and furthermore,
You know, with the moderators, it's close. Thank you, Chip.
Chip, how about the salary cut from county supervisor to state legislator?
oh, so are we starting with questions?
I'm just kidding.
No, it's less than a third, unless you're on the industrial commission and
They get a lot of per diem.
then you get your per diem. Anyway, thank you. We'll jump right into it. Number 1, we just had a very contentious ballot issue that evidently has been settled today. The vote difference was less than 1%, almost 1%. If you will remember, the 2010 election with Proposition 203, the medical marijuana
Yeah.
position, passed by 4,400 votes out of 1.7 million voters. Proposition 123 appears is going to pass by about 20,000 votes out of about 1 million voters. Tell us your position on that. Chip?
Well, correlating the two subjects, if you're gonna smoke weed, you won't need an education.
Free line.
So I think 123 was very revealing. Although it did pass and much needed to be passed, I don't believe that the 49% on the no side was saying no to education. I think the largest majority of the 49% was saying, no, this is a Band-Aid fix, and we're fearful that you're not going to fully address education funding in the state of Arizona. And so folks were voting no because they didn't believe that this was anything more than a smoke and mirrors. The proposal was for a 10-year fix, which magically takes the education funding issue off of the table for a couple of 4-year terms. But the reality is sincerely, we have got to fix education in Arizona. And I don't mean just K-12, I think post-secondary also needs to be adjusted. And then even beyond post-secondary, we need to provide programs for internships so when people are coming out of our university systems, of which we have invested a ton, that they have a place in Arizona to create a career. Because oftentimes our universities are cranking people out and 65% of them are going to other states to pursue their career.
Thank you. Karen?
Thank you. Chip, you hit it right on the head. Very good. I was 100% in support of 123, and I am so thankful that it passed. It was much needed money for our education system. It was a close race. Chip hit it right on the nose. It was one of those interesting where it wasn't left, it wasn't right. It was the left and the right actually sort of green amongst everybody else. Part of the problem we had is we had a treasurer that was going around the state that was telling half-truths about it. When he talked about, oh, we have $3.5 billion sitting in the checking book and we should be able to pay that, what he didn't tell you is that $2.5 billion of that money was our working capital. That's what pays the bills to keep the doors open and pay the employees every day. $600 million of that is our rainy day fund that we've got put away for another rodeo Chetasky fire, God forbid, or some other catastrophe. That's our rainy day money. And then the other $600 million was our one-time funding, which we spent this year in the budget. And what did we do in the budget? We restored JTED funding to the tune of $30 million. We made sure that current year funding did not go into effect this year, which was another $30 million. $38 million for small school weights. Another $34 million for colleges. Plus, we reduced the rollover amount, the debt, by $236 million. So we reduced debt. We put $86 million into the HERF funds. We have more roads coming down. But let me get back to 123 real quick. Not only was the problem was that we had half-truths being told out there, but then we had people on the left, on the Democrat side, like the League of Women Voters, who were saying, oh no, let's not settle the lawsuit, let's sue for more. Well, we know how that works. The only people that win are the attorneys, folks. This bill, the proposition and this settlement was negotiated with the Arizona Education Association, the AEA, the judges, the attorneys, the governor's office. There was a whole plethora of people involved with this that was able to bring everybody together, just like we did on Prop 124, which was fixing the public safety retirement system. So we are doing a great job. Chip is absolutely correct. This is only step one. Actually, it was step two. Step one is what we did in the budget to make sure that we held K through 12 harmless. And that stands for not only public but charter schools. Step two was Prop 123. Thank you, voters, for those who voted yes on it. That is going to get the ball going. Step three is this summer, and it's already been in the works. Our own Tim Carter is on it, but he has a board, the governor has a board together. that is called Classrooms First. And this group of very, very smart people that know a lot more about education than I do, like Tim Carter, are on this, and they are going through the entire thing. They are going to figure out, maybe we just need to scrap the way that we fund education right now. Because quite honestly, it's like the IRS. There are so many levels of bureaucracy and so much going on that nobody can figure out what the funding system is anyway. So their number one goal is how much money do we really need? How do we get it to the schools and the classrooms as expeditiously as possible with the least amount of overhead and interference? And we move forward with that. And then step 4, once we have that figured out, then it's figuring out how do we fund this. I know he's over here, stop it. The 4 is how do we fund this from here on out? Because we do know 1, 2, 3 is just a stopgap. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Karen. Now flipping over to the other proposition, 1, 2, 4. I don't know a single person who was opposed to that. Not one group, not one elected official, not one legislature. How do you explain 30% of the people who voted against it? You first. Do you have an explanation?
I have a guesstimate, because there's always somebody out in the audience that will say, all in favor say aye, and the other one says no. There's always one in the audience. No, seriously, I will tell you, what this does is it is going to start making some changes with the way that we handle our retirements. Some of these, well, not some of them, all of them, they're going to start paying a little bit more into this retirement system. They're not going to be able to start collecting retirement until they're age 55. So there are some things. So I guess there are some, perhaps some that are in the system who feel that they shouldn't have to pay more or shouldn't have to wait longer to get it. I'm guessing, again, I don't know. It's just like when we try and fix the problem here in Prescott with our own PSPRS. There are some that says, oh, that's not our problem, let the legislature fix it. So there's always going to be a few that that are going to say no when most people say yes.
I didn't say no. I said
You're the
yes.
troublemaker, though.
Well, I will say there might be a percentage of those that voted no that felt that this wasn't enough. And some of those felt that the elected officials should have been included in that program. There was a number of other careers or fields that could have been added in. But I think there's another large percentage that are Bernie Sanders folks that are just thinking, hey, it's all free, we all get retired.
Thank you. And I would encourage you to write some questions on the cards because it helps me rather than just making stuff up. The one thing I would make a comment on is that only 3 counties in the state voted against Prop 123. The 2 most liberal counties in the state, Coconino and Pima, and the most conservative county in the state, Yavapai, which was a surprise to me. And as you don't know, may or may not know, Yavapai County always has the highest turnout, election after election, number 1. And number 2, our registration voter base is 45% Republican, 19% Democrat, and about 33% independent, or party not designated. So there was a little anomaly there. All right. Next question. What will you do to get I-17 widened in the corridor coming north out of Phoenix to Cordis? Who's first? All right.
Okay, I'm going to tell you as a state deal, he's going to tell you as a county because he has to deal with this too. We have, as part of our budget, that $86 million we were talking about, part of that budget, there's $5 million set aside to do all the preliminary planning for the I-17. What they are planning on doing, the big first step, and this is one of the only things they've been able to come up with right now, is between Black Canyon City and Sunset Point. You know how there's that big gap between the northbound lanes and the southbounds? It's, I I don't want to call it a center island because it's a huge area. They literally want to construct 2 lanes in the middle of that would be used for like emergency purposes. So in cases of 4th of July weekend where we need 2 more lanes going northbound at the beginning, they can open that up. They want to use it so that if there is an accident and we have to shut down 17, we can divert all the traffic there. So those lanes can be used both for northbound and southbound as necessary. So that is the one big thing that they have come up with that they are going to work with. And there is $5 million in the budget to get all the preliminary engineering done on it.
For those of you that have the pleasure of driving back and forth to Phoenix, you'll see that just the basic maintenance of I-17 is terrible. Once you get to Black Canyon City and headed south, you're liable to get a chipped windshield at any point because the roadway is unraveling. It's terrible. In the state of Arizona, in the ADOT budgeting program, they have allowed for $25 million annually for new programs. And I don't know if you know how far $25 million will take you on a roadway. You can build about 1.5 miles interstate for $25 million bucks. And that's one of the things that I believe the state of Arizona has to address. And it's for us as residents, but it's also, you know, we talk a lot about economic development and recovering the economy, but when we have potential businesses and industry that are looking to relocate to the best state in the nation with the best climate in the nation, and they cross the state line and they find the world's worst roadway systems, they're not inclined to move here because they need to get their products in and out. And so the state of Arizona has got to create a funding system for our roadways. We haven't adjusted the fuel tax since 1992. For 24 years, we have not changed the fuel tax. The price of construction has gone up 64% in that same amount of time. And so we haven't adjusted the fuel tax. And in the meantime, we're building cars that get 80 miles per gallon. We have electric cars. You know, so now we're buying less fuel, which is paying less into the program. We can't build as much as we could. So we have got to address this issue. And it's been problematic because Arizona is strong Republican, and I'm strong Republican too. But sometimes you have to make investments if you want things to pay back. And I don't care whether you mean investing in your house, in your car, in your life. Anything you want to have a good return on, you have to make an investment in. And I believe Arizona has to get investing into our infrastructure.
Speaking of investments, you should invest in your candidates for the same reason. I'm kidding. Real quick, are you running clean elections or not?
Traditional.
Traditional, Karen?
Traditional.
Traditional. I hate when that happens. I love clean election candidates because it's only $5. Anyway, you might as well continue. It's your turn, Chip. As a Republican, will you vote and support the Republican nominee for president?
Absolutely, positively, without a doubt, 110% yes. And for any other answer than that is saying that you're voting for Hillary. Any other answer, and I listen to the talking heads that we all see on the news, any other answer is a vote for Hillary, and there's no other way to put it.
Okay,
I agree, 100%. He said it, he couldn't say it any better than that.
All right. That was easy. Thank you for the question. Please speak to the following on Prop 123. Future accountability, transparency in budgeting, teachers' pay without increase in admin, and who will buy the land that was in the trust. That's a little confusing.
I get it, I know what they're saying.
Anyway, that's really not part of it, but that, yeah.
I get it, good question, because that's one of the big arguments that was going on out there with 123. The accountability issue, the money going into the school. Part of the argument that you heard was that the bill did not say it would go into the school. You are right. If you were one of those people that said that, you are 100% right. It did not say it. But also remember that what is, quote, classroom money is different between rural Arizona and urban Arizona. In rural Arizona like us, we spend a lot of money on buses and bus drivers and fuel to get the kids to school. Well, guess what? That's part of administrative cost. It's not part of the direct classroom. So when we talk about getting money into the classroom, for us in rural Arizona, that means getting the kids to there as well. Another thing I want to mention real quick is that was another argument is, oh, they're going to sell off all the state trust land. That's one of the reasons why some people said they were voting no. So I got this from Lisa Adkins, who is the director of the state trust. And I said exactly, I mean, I knew how much acreage we have, but I didn't know about the leases. We had over 10 million acres when we started in the early 1900s in statehood. We have 9.2 million acres in the trust now. And here's a little tidbit real quick. The majority of the acres in the trust are already under grazing leases. Approximately 8 million of those 9.2 million acres are through 1,200 grazing leases. So they are already making money. We have commercial leases that are both short-term and long-term. The long-term leases can be up to 99 years, and the commercial leases are often used for shopping centers such as Desert Ridge Marketplace, industrial parks, communication towers, and both public safety-related communication and cell towers. There are 300 commercial leases on almost 70,000 acres of land that is generating not only lease benefits, but property taxes for our education and other services. So I won't read the whole thing. As you can see, we're not going to be selling off a lot of land because we're already using it to a really good use, which is by generating lease money on it while we still own it.
So the State Trust Land Initiative, or 123, didn't mean to accelerate the sale of state trust lands. All Arizona state trust lands are for sale or for lease right now, and they have been since statehood. So that does not change. What it changes is what they're doing with the fund and the residual monies in there. What was the other part of the question?
Accountability, teachers pay without increasing admin. Who will buy the land that was in the trust?
So the land part's
It's
good.
still in the trust.
And on the 123 part, there weren't any strings attached. With 123, the distribution was going to go to the schools, and the schools were going to make
School districts.
the districts, and they would make the priority of where to expend it. And in my view, I think that's the best decision to make because nobody knows more than their superintendent, their principal, and their teachers of what their needs are. And so I personally am happy that the legislature or government didn't step in to micromanage them to tell them what to do with the money that was going to come from 123.
Okay. So it actually goes to the individual school boards who make the decisions, and of course, we elect them. And the selling of property is completely independent from 123 because the state has a separate board that determines what will be sold when. And fully 70% of the BLM land in the state of Arizona will never be sold because it's out in the middle of nowhere.
And the national park.
Yeah, right. Anyway, all right. For Chip, what are some of the things that you accomplished when on the Board of Supervisors that are you most proud of?
I'm most proud that I made relations with all of the folks in our communities. In our district, and especially in the unincorporated areas, we created partnerships. And I never have felt that the government comes in and does programs and builds your community or does stuff. I always felt that if communities need certain services or improvements or parks, then it's the community that needs to initiate that. And if they really truly believe in that, then they will also commit to that, and they will bring in part of the responsibility. They'll volunteer to make things happen. They'll raise money to make things happen. And then it was the county's role to come in and assist the communities to build the things that they wanted to do. And I think that's the best relationship we could have had because it wasn't the county government going in and doing everything. It was the county government sitting back and helping the citizens accomplish the things they wanted to do in their communities. We created partnerships with all of the incorporated communities within the Verde Valley, and we raised a couple $1 million to build the Verde Valley Senior Center out of a building that was built in 1917, and it was originally a warehouse, and then it was a locomotive repair building for the mines. It had great history in the Verde Valley, and rather than tearing it down, we refurbished it, turned it into the greatest senior center in the Verde Valley for sure, if not Arizona or the world. But anyway, we've had a lot of great things that have been done, and it's been fun. I hope the legislature is just as much fun.
All right, well, this wasn't directed at Karen, but I'll give you a chance anyway. How effective, what are the changes in your effectiveness that you foresee in serving in the Senate versus the legislature?
Thanks, Malcolm. As I mentioned, I already mentioned a number of the bills that I've already done, but I'd like to touch on one other thing that I found of interest this year. If you remember last year, when we got out of session, one of our biggest complaints and gripes is we basically got rolled on the budget. You remember all those conversations we had? That they gave us the budget the night before and then said, here, we want you to vote on it tomorrow. Well, we got smarter this year, and we had a group of us. There were about 18 of us Republicans, and Noel was part of that. We started meeting back in February and getting our own agenda together about what was important, K through 12, our counties, our municipalities, the HER funds, all the things that was important to us, and we said we're sticking together on it. So sure as heck, came time for budget, sure as heck, leadership came to us and said, okay, well, here's the budget. And we had all given them, we gave them a heads up. I mean, this wasn't a surprise. They knew exactly what our priorities are, right, Noel? They knew well in advance, but when they gave us the budget, those priorities weren't addressed. And they expected us to vote on it, and guess what? We said, nope, sorry. We are a big no on this budget, and until you fix these things that the majority of us want in here, then we'll be here all summer if we have to be. And guess what? They went back to the drawing board and they fixed it, and we got her done.
All right, Karen, still your turn. What is your position on toll roads? We're alternating, so you get back to back. Toll roads.
Well, personally, I ran a bill 4 years ago dealing with toll roads. I don't think toll roads should be used on existing roads. We, the taxpayers, have already paid for those roads through taxes. But I did run a bill, and so it is a tool in the toolbox for a way of future funding. Mr. Davis already mentioned, you know, if we're gonna start looking at serious money to fix our roads and take care of our economic development issues with our roads, we need to come up with some money, folks. So either we need to talk about the fuel tax being raised, as he said, it hasn't been done since 1992, it's 18 cents a gallon. The national average is 28 cents a gallon for tax. So we can talk about that. If the voters don't want that, we can talk about a toll road. You do a public-private partnership that builds the road, whether it's I-11, whether it's widening I-17, new roads, whether it might be anything else, new HOV lanes. That is a way to be able to fund that new construction. You do it for 20 years, the investors get paid off, and then the property becomes the road becomes the property of the state. The bill that I ran was specifically only for new roads with the exception of one. And that was Interstate 15 between Mesquite and St. George, Utah. Mesquite, Nevada and St. George, Utah. It's 29 miles long. You literally can't get there from here. There is literally 1,200 people that live on that 29-mile stretch. There's no gas stations, no hotels, no anything. And 90% of the people that use that are people going between Utah and Nevada. And we had,
And there's not one fuel stop.
And there's no fuel stops, we get nothing. But the bridges over the Virgin River Gorge there are deteriorating, and they wanted Arizona to spend $250 million fixing them. Well, guess what? We don't have $250 million, folks. We can't fix our own highways, much less this little strip. So one of the reasons why I did this bill, and I did this intentionally, and putting I-15 in there is because I happen to know that Orrin Hatch and Harry Reid did not want that to be a toll road.
Surprise.
Guess what? Arizona got $250 million out of the federal government to fix the bridges.
It's all those good church-going people in Utah going to Vegas.
All the Mormons go to the mesquite.
I would just add that I think public-private partnerships is another component to fix the puzzle of transportation funding in Arizona. It is not an unknown. Toll roads have been tried in many, many states. They're very successful, and so they can be a piece of solving the super huge funding problem with Arizona infrastructure.
Thank you. Your turn still, Chip. The majority of voters are not attending forums or meetings. How do you reach the voters still sitting at home in their undershirts? That was polite.
So there's always been this big push about get the vote out, get the vote out. And I've often had this thought, you know, maybe there's a lot of people we don't really want voting.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Other than that, we just keep spreading our message as best we can, and being my opponent's here, I'm not going to give him any of my secrets of getting those guys to the door, but we'll do our best.
Feel the burn.
It's right. It is hard getting the message out, but with Facebook, for those that do that, I knock on a lot of doors, introducing myself. I go to a lot of events. Most of you guys see me pretty much everywhere. We had a great turnout at the home show this weekend, and we were right there with the RWAP ladies, and so it's just getting out there and trying to get involved. I'll tell you one thing exciting, because I'm seeing them over here, is I met like a whole new great group of people working on Prop 123, people that I really didn't know that well before, but getting involved with education funding. So I have a whole new list of friends over there.
All right, thank you. This is a repeat. This is what we did our first question on. Thank you for that. You asked for their position on 123 and 124. I think we answered that one.
Totally.
All right. What is your take on ADWR in Yavapai County? I guess that's going to be for both of you. For those of you who don't know, Arizona Department of Water Resources used to have a full-time office up here, and it closed for budget restraint, budget conditions, what, 6-7 years ago? So now we don't have an office here. It's down in Phoenix and on the internet. How important do you think an ADWR presence is in Yavapai County? How about that?
Am I supposed to start, or is Chip supposed to start?
Whatever, you work it out.
If the person that wrote, did they want to, was that really the question? Is that the way you want to know, or there was something more to it?
Do you want to clarify that, or did I kind of address it?
They don't want to say. Oh.
Okay.
It's anonymous.
I just wanted to hear from Karen and Chip what their take is right now on the condition or the situation with ADWR, in that they haven't had to, or they've cut way back, it's not funded to do what they need to do in Yavapai County.
Okay, so really the question is, since the budget cutbacks, we've cut back ADWR and haven't given them the tools to regulate what they're supposed to regulate.
Exactly.
What is your opinion on that?
Exactly, and you were 100% correct, absolutely correct. When the times got tough, as you know, everybody suffered, whether it was education, roads, counties, everybody suffered badly. And ADWR, along with everybody else, got cut also. One of the other things is growth completely stopped, so a lot of their services weren't really needed at the time because there was no development going on. But now we are picking back up. We do have more money that we put into this budget, not near what they need to get full-blown again. So we will start addressing that next year as well, and we will get them back up to speed again.
So the Department of ADWR was severely cut. And the sad part is that water resources for the entire state of Arizona have been very critical. And the amount of water and the quality of water that's available has been largely unknown. And so we were going through just crazy growth rates through the 90s, 2000s. And during that time, we got behind the 8 ball on the water issue. And so unfortunately, when growth and the recession started to dip in, we should have accelerated and tried to get ahead of the water resource information as much as we could. But sadly, it got cut down to one person for all of rural Arizona. So all of the watersheds in rural Arizona, there's one person to cover the entire area. It makes it literally impossible for them to have any type of expertise for each given aquifer and watershed. But Arizona is going to have to address this, because that's going to be one of our key components for our future, whether it be economic development or sustaining, is that we've got to get a handle on water resources, amount of availability, how much can we use, how much can we grow, how much can we recharge, what is our growth rates. I mean, the water is going to be the key component.
Like all that BLM land with no water up in Kingman and Winslow and all those Juniper Wood Ranch. Anyway. Do you believe in moving local financial decisions to local government? And if so, how would you envision achieving that objective? You take it.
Right.
No, I'll take it, but.
Well, trying to translate what I believe the question was, is I'm a firm believer in local control. I believe that the federal government just stuck to the federal government business, and the state stuck to just the state business, and the county just stuck to our business, and cities and towns. But it seems in the last couple of decades, maybe there's been some blurred lines in between, and for instance, this year the state told the county and the cities and towns, you know, what we could do with our vacation rental homes and fireworks and other issues. And so I think some of those things need to be left alone. I believe cities and towns should have the ability to make those decisions on their own. They know what's best for their community. And you know, down at the Capitol on the vacation rental issue, in Phoenix, you might live next door to somebody for 10 years and never know their name. You might wave twice at them. But up here in rural Arizona, we have neighborhoods, and we know everybody in the neighborhood, and our kids play out in the yard. And you know, I think it's terrible that now I can know that somebody can invest in the house that's for sale next door and turn it into a vacation rental, and I never know who's going to spend the night next door. So I think those type of issues should have been swayed away from and let those be local decisions. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have some cities and towns where they want to dictate what the minimum wage will be. Well, you know, that's really tough if you're a business owner. And so I think that's where the cities and towns override their authority by telling businesses what they should do. So I think, you know, from the top to the bottom, everybody needs to reestablish what their role is and stay within their role and quit going into everybody else's business.
And Chip hit it right on the head. He is absolutely right. I've been a huge advocate for local control, obviously being past mayor and past vice mayor. And he's exactly what he said. You would think that there would be common sense lines about what is federal, what is state, and what is local municipality, but those lines have gotten blurred. And he is right. When you've got municipalities that Bisbee, you know, a couple of years ago decided that they were going to recognize gay marriage before the state did. And we said, you know, that is a statewide function. You can't just arbitrarily say something is, abortions are legal here and not there, gay marriage is there or there. Tim P. wanted all businesses to regulate all their energy use and report it to them. That's not a municipal function. I mean, that's crazy. Flagstaff is going through this ordinance that they're looking at, that they want to impose $15 an hour minimum wage, along with all sorts of benefits, medical, parental leave, things like that. Whether we agree that's right or wrong, it's a state issue. We are working so hard to make Arizona #1 for economic development, for the best place for people to bring their work, their jobs, bring their businesses, raise their families. It is near impossible for a business to do work in Arizona. Look at me. I work all over the state of Arizona. How am I possibly going to operate payroll when I have 40 employees working everywhere and it's all different wages, different benefits? How do I possibly even do business like that? So we just need to kind of reel this back in and come down to some guidelines about, you know, what is local control and what is state control.
Do you favor development of the Big Chino to supply water to Prescott and Prescott Valley? Karen first.
Yes, I do. We have worked on that, gosh, since I was, well, we've talked about water ever since Malcolm and I were on council together 25 years ago, but then as mayor of Chino, that was an intricate part of everything that we do. So I have no problem with importing water from the Big Chino. The key thing is making sure that we do not harm the downriver flows, which is the Verde Valley. One of the really great things that we came up with in Chino Valley, and ADWR absolutely loves it, they said it was ingenious, is the very northern part of Chino Valley is in the Big Chino Aquifer. Remember, our aquifers are like bowls of water. The little Chino's like a little bowl and the Big Chino's like a big bowl. The problem is there's a barrier between the big bowl and the little bowl, right? Everybody got that? So think about the north part of Chino Valley is in the Big Chino Aquifer. So our idea was that we can actually pump water from the Big Chino into the Little Chino Basin to be able to generate more water here, but then we can very easily recharge it back into the Big Chino. So it is literally a flow going this way. ADWR thought it was the most ingenious thing, and so they said when the time comes and we are ready to start doing those imports, they would like to work with us because there is a solution to be able to take care of both of our needs.
This one is fairly easy because I've been preaching this song for about 15 years. The Verde Valley and the city of Prescott areas should be partners. We should be partners for the same reason, and that is protection of the Big Chino Aquifer. And so the 8,900 acre feet that's legislatively allocated to the city of Prescott out of the Big Chino is a drop in the bucket. That is not the issue. The 8,900 acre feet, or if they transfer the irrigation rights and get it up to 12,000 acre feet, that isn't the issue. The issue is the hundreds of thousands of vacant land you have sitting on top of the aquifer that is ripe for development. And so the city of Prescott and Prescott Valley, Tri-City area can have water out of the Big Chino. The Verde Valley can have water running through the river. Everybody wins, but we both lose once large-scale development starts happening on top of the Big Chino Basin. And that's why the water wars are really ridiculous, because we have more in common than we have disagreement about. And so if we can come to an agreement that we need to do some type of conservation right, purchase of development rights over the Big Chino Basin, the aquifer will sustain the river, it will sustain the growth that's projected for the Prescott Valley area, and it's a win-win. Well, it's an extremely expensive win-win, trying to figure out how to get that conservation right done. But there are different resources out there that we can keep chasing down. There's land water conservation, there's revenues that are generated off offshore drilling that go into accounts that can be applied. There's farm bill monies that we can be chasing. I mean, there's hope for the future. This water issue shouldn't be such a negative issue. It should just be one we should address the Big Chino Basin.
Okay, next resident, stand up, keep standing. We have a question relating to LGBT issues. And of course, as a good cowboy, that doesn't mean liquor, bacon, guns, and tobacco. Will, The state legislative offices have transgender restroom, and what's your opinion on this issue?
God, who asked that?
So, I'm not going to project where the legislature is going with that, but I have been amazed as an American, as an Arizonan, sincerely, that our society has got to the point that the stinking discussion is about going to the bathroom and talking. We're talking about it in grade schools. I mean, you got a problem with a parent that's letting his kid change sex before he's 18. I mean, good Lord, I can't believe we've allowed this to become a discussion. I mean, if somebody says something so stupid, do we have to create a debate about it, or can we just say it's stupid and move on?
Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure where the legislatures are going to go with this, but one of the disappointing things is that our president has decided to try and mandate this with the threat of pulling school funding as well as a number of other funding to our states if we don't comply. I believe that every human being needs to be treated with dignity. I don't believe in bullying. I don't believe in persecution. And I do realize that this 0.5% of the population, I want to make sure that they're safe. I want to make sure that they can live their life the way they want to live it. But I'm also concerned about the other 99.5% of the people, because as soon as I heard about this, you know what I thought about? Growing up here in Prescott and going to the YWCA, where all of us little girls were changing our bathing suits to go out and swim in the Y pool. And that immediately came to my mind and thought about, gosh, when I was 8 or 9 years old, what would I have thought about somebody with male body parts undressing in front of me? I'm sure my mom and dad wouldn't have been too happy about it. So I disagree with President Obama's ruling on this. I think that there must be some better solutions than to subject our little children to being exposed by people of the opposite sex.
Well, I always say if the women are disgusted by the urinals, then just stay the heck out.
Yeah. They're
We kind of appreciate those things. Well, that's the last of our questions. I want to thank you for your participation, and I'm sure the questions that you come up would have been a lot better than preordained questions, because the purpose of these is to answer your questions. And I think both of you will be around afterward to answer some questions. And Jay, back to you. Thanks, folks.